High school concerts are brutal, not because of the music, but because teenagers are the toughest audience in the world. They'll cheer like maniacs one second and tear you apart the next, especially if you break the rules of what's cool. And Eleanor Santos, she broke every rule the moment she walked into the gym, not because of her dress. Although that alone was enough to draw looks, she wasn't in glitter or heels or some trendy strapless gown. She wore something simple, elegant, sky blue, hair in soft curls. She looked beautiful, but that wasn't what people were staring at. They were staring at her brother, Leo, 17, in a wheelchair, nonverbal, cerebral palsy, and her date. The hallway chatter turned toxic the second they rolled in. Oh my God, she brought him. Is that her boyfriend or something? She couldn't find a real date. Who brings a disabled kid to prom night? She heard all of it. Every whisper, every laugh, every cruel giggle hidden behind fake smiles and glittery makeup. She felt Leo's hand tighten around hers. He couldn't speak, but he understood everything, especially mockery. He had lived with it longer than anyone in that gym. Eleanor smiled at him. "Ignore them," she whispered. "They don't matter." But inside, she wanted to scream. The gym was decked out in gold streamers, paper stars, and way too bright overhead lights. A makeshift stage had been set up for the open mic portion of the concert. Anyone who signed up could perform, sing, read poetry, play an instrument. Eleanor hadn't signed up, but Leo had. Well, she had signed him up, because what nobody knew, not even their closest friends, was that Leo could play piano. Not just Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. No, really play. He'd been practicing at home for years, self-taught, guided by Eleanor's ear, and an adaptive keyboard setup their dad built when Leo was 10. And tonight was the first time he'd ever perform in public. She hadn't told anyone, not even the music teacher, because she knew how cruel kids could be, because she was scared, and because deep down part of her didn't believe he'd go through with it. But now? She saw the look in his eyes, the fire, the focus. He was ready. "Contestant number 6, the student MC called out, "Eleanor and Leo Santos." There was a moment of silence, then a couple of sarcastic claps. Eleanor felt her stomach twist as they rolled onto the stage. The keyboard was already there. She helped Leo position his hands. He gave a soft grunt, his version of, "I got this." She stepped back and prayed. At first, nothing, just Leo, hands hovering above the keys, fingers curled in that crooked, tense way they always were, shaped not by choice, but by condition. Somewhere in the crowd, someone snickered, and then he played. The first note rang out, soft, uncertain, then another, then a chord, then a run, clumsy maybe, but beautiful, so full of feeling that the room physically shifted. The noise stopped, the giggles, the whispers, the snarky comments. They all dissolved like sugar in rain, because what Leo played wasn't flashy, it wasn't perfect, but it was pure. He played Clair de Lune, a version adapted for one hand, reworked to fit the limited motion he had. But somehow, he filled the gym with more emotion than any pop cover or lip-synced duet before him. People stared, some with hands over mouths, some with wide, blinking eyes. One girl clutched her corsage and whispered, "I didn't even know he could." Elena stood beside the stage, hands pressed together, barely breathing. She knew this moment. She had heard this song 1,000 times. At home, late at night, when Leo practiced in secret, learning every note with patient agony. But hearing it here, in front of them, was different. It was triumph. It was defiance. It was truth. And then, at the last note, Leo lifted his hands. Not dramatically, not with flair, just done. He turned his head slightly, eyes searching for his sister. Eleanor stepped forward and took the mic. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. "I know most of you didn't expect that," she said, scanning the crowd. "Some of you laughed when we came in. Some of you wondered why I brought my brother to the concert." A ripple of shame passed through the front row. Eleanor continued, "What you don't know is that Leo has been working for 5 years to learn that piece. He did it without a teacher, without formal lessons, with one hand, and a brain the world tells him is broken." She paused. "But it's not broken. It's beautiful, just like he is." She looked at Leo, whose eyes glistened under the stage lights. "You all saw a wheelchair. I see the strongest person I know." The room was silent. You could hear someone sniffle in the back, and then one clap, then another, then a wave of applause that roared like a standing ovation. Students stood, teachers stood, parents stood, not out of politeness, out of awe. Later, in the parking lot, someone tapped Eleanor on the shoulder. It was the girl who had laughed when they entered as, "I'm sorry," she said quietly, "for what I said." "You two? That was incredible." Eleanor didn't smile. She nodded. "Thanks." But inside, she wasn't doing it for them anymore. After the concert, word spread like wildfire. The girl who brought her disabled brother to prom, the brother who played piano with one hand, the speech that shut everyone up, everyone was talking. On Monday morning, Eleanor and Leo walked into school, and for the first time in a long time, no one stared with pity. They nodded, they smiled, some high-fived Leo. Even the principal stopped them in the hallway. "Your brother taught this school more in 5 minutes than I have in 5 years." Elena laughed. Leo let out a low grunt, his yes. But the story wasn't over. A week later, the school hosted its annual assembly, awards, closing remarks, a final chance for seniors to say goodbye. Elena didn't plan on speaking. She had already said what she needed to say, but when the principal walked onto the stage and said, "I've invited one last guest to close our year with a message," she knew. It was Leo. He rolled onto the stage. Same hoodie, same quiet intensity. But this time there was no whispering, no giggling, no disbelief. He took the mic, then reached into his pocket and pressed a button. A pre-recorded voice, generated from his text-to-speech device, came through the speaker. Mechanical, yes, but clear, powerful, intentional. "Hello, I'm Leo Santos. Some of you only saw me as a chair, a body, a background." He paused. The gym was frozen. "But I am more. I am a musician. I am a brother. I am a student. I am a person. Thank you for hearing me last week. For the first time I felt seen. And to those who laughed, it's okay. You didn't know me. Now you do. Be kind. Because your words are louder than you think." He looked up and smiled. The crowd stood again, not out of shock, out of respect. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about voice. And what happens when someone finally uses theirs, no matter how. That summer, Leo was invited to play at a regional youth arts festival. He performed with other kids with disabilities. He played the same piece, Claire de Lune, but this time he ended with something different. He rolled to the edge of the stage, picked up the mic, pressed his device, and said, "I can't talk, but my story can." Sometimes courage doesn't look like shouting. It looks like rolling into a room full of people who don't believe in you, and doing it anyway. Sometimes voice doesn't come from the mouth, it comes from the heart. And sometimes the quietest person in the room says the loudest thing. So the next time you see someone who doesn't fit in, ask yourself, are you listening or just watching? Because the moment they take the mic, you might realise they were never the background. They were the main story all along. Subscribe to our channel and drop the comment below.